What's up, guys? Troy here. Today, let's talk about creatine. Is it the most amazing myostatin inhibitor or just another somewhat okay supplement? Before we talk about creatine's effects, we need to understand the three energy systems in the human body. And I'm going to use the analogy of banks to make a better statement of this. First, we have our short-term bank, which allows us to pull out all the money we need very quickly. So short bursts of money we need for, say, a rainy day. We quickly need to get something and we need it now. We can't wait. So there's short processing times on this first energy system or first bank. Now the second bank, it takes a little bit longer. It needs more notice, but there's more money in the bank, but you can't take it out as quickly. So when you can't take it out as quickly, you're not able just to make quick purchases very quickly. It takes time and you have to wait, processing times. So it's not ideal for very quick bursts of things you need. Now we have our third bank. It has the most amount of money, tons and tons and tons of money, but it takes forever to get the money out of it. You have to wait 10, 15 days for the processing times. And even though the processing times take a long time, you're not able to pull out as many funds as you are out of your quick bank and your medium bank. You have a lot of money, but you can't pull out that money as quickly as you can from the other two banks. This is analogous to the human body, where our first quick burst energy system is the phosphocreatine system, and the second system is our glucose and glycogen system, and the third system is our fat and oxidative phosphorylation system. Through the phosphocreatine system, we're able to get that energy quickly, to quick bursts. We can get it now, right now. And we have somewhat large withdrawal capacity, whereas the glucose and glycogen system, there's kind of a medium withdrawal you can make, and it takes a little bit longer. And lastly, the fat system, thus oxidative phosphorylation, it takes longer, and the withdrawal you can make from it is nowhere near as high as you could from the phosphocreatine system. Creatine ties in here. It acts to increase the bank size of your first quick bank. So when you ingest creatine, you're able to increase the amount of money you can pull out of that first bank. You need that energy now. There's no time to wait, and you need it now. When you take creatine, an enzyme called creatine kinase converts creatine to phosphocreatine. That phosphate group donates itself to ADP, creating high energy ATP, which is required for muscle contraction. Therefore, you're able to get much more robust muscle contraction when you have these quick phosphocreatine stores from taking creatine. Increased muscle contraction and force generation from creatine supplementation is undoubtedly true, but a lot of people are trying to say that it inhibits myostatin and thus it's going to increase muscle. A randomized clinical control trial looked at 19 individuals who took creatine for 8 weeks with resistance training, and the placebo was those who had resistance trained for 8 weeks without creatine. And what was found was that myostatin and GASP1 were both significantly decreased in the study. Myostatin is a negative regulator of muscle mass, meaning the less myostatin you have, the more muscle mass you can accrue. Therefore, inhibition of myostatin is like cutting the brakes from the vehicle, meaning that you're going to get more muscle mass. You're going to get more speed in the vehicle when you're inhibiting the brakes. Unfortunately, in the human body, there is not only one regulator of muscle mass, but many. Both myostatin and activin A are negative regulators of muscle mass, activin A being the more prominent regulator of muscle mass in humans. So this decrease in myostatin may not cause a lot of gains or muscle mass accrual in the human model, whereas in the mouse model, it might cause a significant accrual of muscle mass, which has been demonstrated by many studies. GASP1, on the other hand, inhibits myostatin and activin A from interacting with the activin type 2B receptor, which then means that the transcribing of their brakes on the muscle system are inhibited. If, say, this decrease in myostatin and GASP1 from creatine supplementation was significant, we would see that there'd be a greatly increased accrual of muscle mass in studies. However, this is not what has been demonstrated in many RCT studies. For example, a meta-analysis pooled all the results on creatine and muscle mass. The inclusion criteria was that everyone had to be over the age of 18. They had to have taken creatine for at least 3 weeks or longer and be engaged in a full body workout. They had both a creatine loading and maintenance phase in the study, and muscle mass was measured via many ways, either free fat mass, but no cross-sectional area. Estimates of muscle mass could be taken from lean body mass, fat-free mass, or bone-free mass. This meta-analysis found that there was an increase in muscle mass from the group who took creatine. Now, unfortunately, the parameters of the study only took those who were above 18 years and older, whereas a lot of studies that have been done recently showed that the older population and aging population has a greater response to creatine supplementation than a younger population. This could be a co-founder effect in this study. And again, the use of fat-free mass, bone-free mass, and lean body mass, they're all ambiguous ways, and there's no measurement or standardized cross-sectional area measurement of muscle mass in these studies. Because creatine increases intracellular water, the fat-free mass could just simply be intracellular swelling from the creatine supplementation. So the measurement or result of increased lean muscle mass is overstated from this intracellular water. Thus, these people may not be gaining a lot of muscle, but they could be increasing the amount of water in each cell. If myostatin was so important in the creatine supplementation cascade, why aren't we seeing huge increases in muscle mass when we supplement creatine? It's decreasing GASP1, it's decreasing myostatin, but we only see significant results in older adults. Another theory could be that myostatin and GASP1 aren't the only ways that creatine is exerting its effects, that its pleiotropic effects are also via activating intracellular IGF-1. For example, a randomized clinical control trial was looking at IGF-1 concentrations and resistance training for those who supplemented creatine and those who didn't supplement creatine. The participants had to have at least 1 year of training experience before enrolling in the study. In the study, they found that there was an increase in intracellular IGF-1 in those who were resistance trained and those who took creatine. There was about a 24% increase in intracellular IGF-1 for those who were taking creatine and resistance training at the same time. Therefore, creatine's effects on muscle mass accrual may not be attributed to myostatin or GASP1, but may also be attributed to many other growth pathways, including IGF-1. Rather than creatine directly causing more muscle mass, I would say that creatine allows you to do more work, which leads to more muscle mass. This hypothesis is supported by another RCT where they took participants, put them on a 12-week program where they were doing heavy, full-body resistance training. One group did creatine, the other did not. And what they found was that there was a 2 times increased weight gain, 24% increased bench press performance, and 32% increased squat performance in the creatine supplementation group. In addition, all muscle fibers, including type 1, type 2, were all increased in the supplemental creatine group. So what could be happening here is that creatine is allowing you to have more strength. That increased strength is allowing you to do more work, and therefore you're getting more muscle mass because you're doing more work, not because creatine is significantly increasing growth pathways, but rather it's allowing your muscles to lift more, and thus the growth pathways are stimulated more from more volume in your exercises rather than creatine itself directly stimulating these pathways. And if, say, IGF-1, myostatin, and GASP-1 all contributed to a significant amount of muscle mass from creatine supplementation, why don't we see the studies on young resistance trained individuals that there's a significant increase in muscle mass? If all of these pathways increase accrual of muscle mass, why don't we see it? All of the incremental effects on accrual of muscle mass are seen in older aged population, that those who are older benefit way more in a muscle mass aspect from creatine supplementation than those who are younger. It's more likely that the perception of increased muscle mass from intracellular water retention is making people think that they have more muscle mass, that creatine is increasing their muscle mass over time, but rather after the loading phase, that creatine could simply be making their muscles pop more. In summation, creatine allows you to do more work by increasing that quick bank capacity for energy. It's allowing you to create that ADP very quickly. Now, that is allowing you to do more work in a short period of time. So those heavy bench presses, heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, any heavy movement is greatly enhanced by creatine. And it's not the growth pathways, myostatin, GASP1, and IGF1 that are causing the increased muscle mass. It's more so that you're able to do more work per exercise and per workout. And that's what's causing the increased muscle mass accrual when you are taking creatine. And that people are thinking that the increased intracellular water, they're mistaking that for actual muscle mass. Even in the studies, they're measuring free fat mass, but they're not measuring it via cross-sectional area of the muscle. Instead, they are measuring it via fat-free mass, which includes body water, which includes water in the muscles, and doesn't account for increased cross-sectional area of the actual muscle itself, not just the water in the muscle. I think that wraps it all up. Like, comment, subscribe for the algorithm. See you in the next one.